Thanks for downloading the Racing Postcast. Listen online and on mobile.
Hello, this is Chris McGrath. Welcome to the Racing Bloodstock Postcast. I'm thrilled to be joined by Charlie Gordon-Watson and Nancy Sexton, and we're going to be chatting about the Derby and the Oaks. And we're going to start off with the fillies race on Friday. There's a big contrast between these two races this year. On Saturday, we've got a wide open field. On Friday, apparently we don't. Rhododendron standing out in the betting and arguably on the form. Ladies first, Nancy, Rhododendron, obviously an outstanding 2-year-old, fantastic first run in the Classic, a little unlucky, and the form looks very good again now. Where do we stand on the extra half mile?
It's a pretty quick female family, as you know, we know, but it doesn't mean to say that, you know, with those Galileos, we've seen them, you know, if they're out of sprinters, they quite often, you know, they can stay. I mean, this particular filly, she's out of a very good miler, but it's a really quick family underneath, sort of Cassandra Go, a good Trevor Stewart family. But she was doing all of her best work late on. We won't know whether she would have ever beaten Winter with a clearer run, but, you know, she's a sort of a... I mean, Charlie, you would have seen her. She's sort of that sort of rangy type of filly, would you say? Sort of.
Very much so. She probably gets that being out of a pivotal mare, and but being from a sort of sprinter type family with, as you said, Cassandra Go and things. I remember when they bought Halfway to Heaven as a yearling at Goffs many years ago, and then Pivotal since then has become a very prominent route messire, and there's another Pivotal in the race, Hydrangea, obviously, who's also by Galileo.
Yeah, Halfway to Heaven was obviously a very accomplished race mare herself, wasn't she? There's this great vogue now for... Martin Stevens written an interesting piece in our paper this morning about everyone has this great faith that Galileo times sprinter equals action. But it's interesting, isn't it, that for instance, they've obviously taken a view with Churchill that Galileo times speed equals miler. We have to sort of trust their judgment, don't we? The ones that are going to stay.
Well, I mean, yeah, I look at Churchill. I don't think he looks physically like a middle distance horse. Do you, Charlie? I mean, he's very, very strong.
He's very, very sort of compact almost. He's tall, but he doesn't look like a mile and a half horse to me. He's an out and out miler, and they did very much the same at Glen Eagles.
Yes.
Whereas this filly, well, certainly when she won so impressively in the autumn, she did look an Oaks filly, didn't she?
She did.
No doubt about it, and I think she's 11 to 10 on, and I think on the day she could be shorter because I think she's in a different league to the rest of these.
Right, finding money in the street. Okay, well, let's not bother talking about any of the other things. It's a horse race. It's round Epsom. Things can go wrong. Things can happen, even if she has got a class advantage. And she's obviously running into some unexposed progressive horses. Two fillies by Nathaniel, whose first crop was predictably perhaps slow to warm up, but has certainly done so this spring. And Charlie, I'm relying on you for an inside track on one of them, which Natavia, you...
Well, yes, Natavia, we bought her as a foal, and Tom Wilson from Northern Ireland bought us a foal and then to resell, and then he was almost tempted to keep her, but he doubled his money from 300 to 600, so we thought it was a job well done. But if she goes and wins the Oaks, maybe not.
Always take the money, Charlie. Always.
But also,
a bird in the hand.
But the interesting thing is that the previous year, we'd also bought the See the Stars filly out of our Queen of Kings for 320, and she made 600 as well. So for the same person. So he had 2 touches 2 years running. The other one was not so good.
Right. Well, they don't always work out, do they? But it's an interesting family, actually. It's a strong family, largely mile, 10 furlong family. But you would think with Nathaniel, Nancy, that we're going to get a similar sort of stamina influence to his side.
For sure, I'd say. I mean, they are staying particularly well, as he did. I saw Roger Charlton at the weekend. He's not convinced she'll stay because there is a bit of speed, but his spinning queen, she went to Galileo himself, and she produced a good filly that did stay, Gallipot. And so she wasn't stopping at the end of Newbury. And, you know, it wasn't the easiest ground for her to get through either. I like the other Nathaniel filly. I can't see any difficulties in her staying.
It's interesting, Roger going to that sort of company with a maiden. Obviously rates her highly. And
she was really well backed. And she ran at Newmarket. She was really well backed, and she travelled very well and just got run out of it. And then, as you say, to step up straight up to listed company in what was quite a useful race. A couple of winners, and then again she went off favourite.
Now, as you mentioned, Nancy, Enable, there's clearly going to be no issue over her stamina. I mean, she's won virtually over the trip already, and she is, Charlie, out of a Sadler's Wells mare from a useful family, very useful family. I think she is it the dam or grand dam is a sister to the dam of the top money owner, Flintshire, exactly. But we have a grandson of Sadler's Wells in Nathaniel, producing a filly out of a daughter of Sadler's Wells.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, you're not going to get a sprinter that way.
No, absolutely not. And it's a fascinating theory to breeding in a way. That they're so close, and she will have no doubt. There'll be no doubt about her staying, and she's probably the worthy second favourite.
Yeah, well, at Newbury, she looked like she was a bit short of toe against her very smart stablemate, but she travelled with plenty of zip at Chester.
Yeah, and I think Chester's a very good trial for Epsom, and she went round there very handily.
What else do we have? What else can we give a credible chance to? We got Sobetsu has produced a very, very impressive performance in France first time out with Coronet in third. How do you read these two Dubawi fillies, Nancy?
They were talking about going back to France, aren't they, in the immediate aftermath of Deauville, and I guess with the ground the way it is, I mean, it'll suit her if they do decide to go the Epsom route. I think, that day Coronet sort of was at the back, and she's doing all her best work late on, and I think she'll come on a lot for that, and she'll promise to improve again on her breeding, stepping up to 1.5 miles. But Sobetsu, she won really well, and I thought what was striking, I was there that day and I saw in the paddock how well she'd done from 2 to 3, and she's quite an imposing, strong filly from the Doff the Derby family, the branch that Darley's managed to get hold of. So she's interesting, but I'd sort of half fancy Coronet to sort of improve past her, I think, on this occasion.
Yeah, Charlie, Coronet sort of races like a filly that wants a stiffer test, and as a Darshan mare, as a stout family again. Dubawi's, we'll come to this when we talk about the Derby. He needs a bit of Epsom classic action, doesn't he? These two fillies should stay the trip, shouldn't they?
Without doubt. I mean, they're both, as we know, out of Darshan mares. I thought Coronet in France was probably the one to take out of the race, because she was way back and on the outside and finished very well. And that was her first run of the year. And I'd fancy her to finish at least in the first 4, ahead of Sobetsu.
You think she'll reverse the form?
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
I agree.
Right, horseplay, Nancy. There are some famous colours here. It'd be marvellous if Cape Cross could add a sort of postscript to his incredible Epsom record. This is going to stay well, also, you would think.
Yes, he should.
It was a was a fiddly sort of race that she won, but she managed to win it with that sort of background to her. You could see her taking a big step forward.
Yes, I could. She did. I thought she did it well that day, and so she pointed out Kit Cross, tremendous Epsom record, and out of a good lemon drop kid mare who actually stayed beyond a mile and a half. She's interesting, definitely. She's already, went round Epsom, didn't she, in Breakfast and the Stars, by all accounts. Went well. She's interesting, I think.
Mischief Making, I think, got her black type in the Cigaro, I think.
Yes, something like that. Yes, she stayed.
So she certainly did stay.
Yeah.
Yes. Some of those lemon drop kids.
Yes. And she's out of an Akatanango mare, so it's there's lots going, stamina.
And Kate Cross, has got a better Epsom record than anyone really. See the Stars and Ouija Board and Golden Horn. So I'd give her. She will definitely stay. There's no doubt about it. And when she won a maiden in Nottingham last year, she won it by miles.
Yeah, she bolted up, didn't she?
And Andrew's horse have been in great form all spring, haven't they? So, any of the outsiders appeal to either of you?
In a word, no.
I don't know. I mean, the American horse would be interesting to watch, but I can't see how on pedigree she will.
Well, it's incredible,
appreciate.
Isn't it? She's a half sister to Mongolian Saturday, I believe.
Exactly. Yes.
And by Scat Daddy. So that, I mean, she obviously finished the race well over 9 furlongs, but this is a completely different ball game, isn't it? Completely
different ball game. And Scat Daddy's, good sort of fast line, Hennessy, Johannesburg line. That's pretty quick. I mean, I looked him up, like he has had a Chilean Derby winner, but that's some way removed from what this will require. But anyway, they're here, and they're giving it a good go. And
well, fair play to them for that. No glimmer of hope for Alluringly, perhaps stiffer test than she didn't really manage to land a blow at Chester, but this be a different type of race.
Well, there's O'Brien, Philip. If they start stepping forward. I mean, she didn't really show a huge amount last year, and then she won her maiden well, and she didn't really land a blow at Chester. But if the filly's bred for it, and it's Urban C's family, isn't it? So I don't know. You could probably see her running into a place,
which would obviously do no harm at all to the page, which, as you say, is an exceptional one. So basically, we're all of the view that if she shows up on the day, everything falls right, Rhododendron is going to take an awful lot of stopping here. But if each of you give us your most feasible alternative. Charlie.
I would go for Horseplay.
Horseplay. Nancy?
I think Charlie Natavia.
Yes.
And Coronet.
Astutely picked out as a foal.
I'd be interested to know how many of these were homebred and how many were bought at auction. Not very many were bought at auction, as is always the case with the Oaks.
No, indeed.
Rafe Beckett's, was that bought at auction? Isabel Diabine, I can't.
Yeah. It could well have been.
Vintage Folly.
Vintage Folly was definitely bought, yeah, but it is hard to buy a filly to run in the Oaks.
Well done. You've got that far.
Well,
we'll see what happens next.
By default, really, because it was bought to be sold rather than to race. But anyway,
Isabel Diabine, I was just looking up, was bought in for 145,000. Book 1 from Mount Coot. Okay, right. We'll take a short break now, and we'll resume shortly, looking at the Derby.
Thanks for downloading the Racing Postcast. Listen online and on mobile.
Welcome back. This is Chris McGrath with the Racing Post Bloodstock podcast, looking ahead to the Derby in the company of Nancy Sexton and Charlie Gordon-Watson. It's a wide open race on the face of it, an interesting blend of very inexperienced progressive horses and a few more battle-hardened types. It's going to be a big field, a bit of street craft, a bit of know-how could be an asset, but we have seen over the years pretty raw horses come through and win this with class, even in big fields. Nancy, let's start with you. We've got 2 Frankles. Come on, let's get it out of the way. The F word. With contrasting preparations for this, but both only lightly raced. Neither on the face of it guaranteed to stay, perhaps.
I think Eminent will. I think he'll stay. That family, they all tend to stay. The sort of Richard Henry's Jude family, and they all, you know, they've had particularly in the Oaks, they had a tremendous run where, you know, Quarter Moon yesterday, I think All My Loving, they're all placed. Diamonds and Rubies was unlucky in her year, and they all improved for step up in trip. And this lad, he's a big, sort of strong horse. You know, I suppose the question is, will he go round Epsom? But I can see him improving quite a bit for a step up to 1.5 miles. I mean, Cracksman, he's probably stepping into the unknown a bit, but, you know, it's the same. You go way back, it's sort of the same family of Golden Horn, and yes, there are quite a few milers in that family, but it's also a family the connections know really well, and I don't think they would be sending him there if they didn't think he'd have a good chance.
No, sure. Right, Charlie, it's early days with Frank, of course. I mean, if these 2 colts were by Galileo, there'd be absolutely no question about it. By his son, it's quite early to read. There seem to be many different ways of going in Frankles. You know, some of them quite high energy horses, but others, including Eminent, I suppose, have shaped more like taking a bit of time to get through the rhythm, through the gears. Your view, could Frankle sire a Derby winner?
Yeah, I think he has a very good chance to. Obviously, he has the favourite. I think Eminent, if he was trained by Aidan O'Brien, I think he'd be a very short favourite.
Really?
Because he's a Craven winner. He has a pedigree that suggests he will stay. He's from a pedigree that's got very good Epsom history. And I thought the way he won the Craven was very impressive. The Guineas maybe came a bit soon for him. And I'd give him a very good chance.
Well, Nancy, how did you read his Guineas run? I mean, obviously, it didn't. It was a funny race, wasn't it? It worked out very well for the winner,
yes.
but
yes,
the winner looks like he's a horse that things will always work out well for. But that's part of what makes him good.
He stuck out wide, wasn't he? And he probably just lacked that final bit of toe to sort of go with them. He's always struck me as a stayer in the making, and physically. I mean, Do you remember him as a yearling, Charlie? Do you?
Eminent, yes, I do, because obviously I look up my notes a year later, and I overlooked him totally.
Well, everyone did, didn't they?
But he was huge. He was really big.
He was huge, and I did exactly the same with Golden Horn as well. So, which actually is annoying because I've bought over the years a lot of horses from Hascombe, and including Cannock Chase and Across the Stars. And so I've had a good record from them, but how we missed Golden Horn, I do not know. But we did.
One horse you didn't miss, John, is Chris Kinn. He went into the race quite relatively inexperienced still, and you just referred to the fact you like Chester as a place to educate a horse. Let's look at some of the Chester graduates here. Well, there are 2 of the Ballydor battalion, Cliffs of Moher and Venice Beach. What did you make of their respective trials at Chester?
I thought they were very similar in a way, very similar, and obviously one of them won over further than the other. But I'd sort of give them sort of equal chances, and one's 12-1 and one's 4-1, which I don't really understand. And then Capri seems to be coming in, being backed. I don't know. I mean, I think the biggest problem is going to be for Ryan Moore. What's he going to ride?
Yes, because some of these horses wouldn't necessarily be the easiest to read off.
No.
You know, Nancy, we're talking about Venice Beach, for instance. It's much more in the classical Derby mould.
Yes.
Of a thorough staying type.
Yeah, he'll have no problem.
And it's a fantastic pedigree, actually. What did you make of the two Balliol winners at Chester?
Well, they've left a fair bit to work on with all of them, actually, haven't they? I mean, that's the way they operate, and I agree with Charlie. They're both quite similar. They both sort of had to be kept up to their work, and just get the impression they're both going to take a step forward come Derby Day. It's just a question of who takes a bigger step, and on pedigree, Venice Beach is probably more likely to be really effective over 1.5 miles, but we're back with Cliffs of Moher. We're back to these quick mares going to Galileo, and it doesn't seem to stop them from staying. So.
Yes, well, we've become accustomed over the years, haven't we, in the Galileo era, to seeing a big team like this from Balliol, particularly if they haven't got a hot favourite. If they'd thrown Churchill into the race, possibly we wouldn't see quite so many of these here. I don't know how many we're going to end up with on the day. Charlie, any of the other ones? Wings of Eagles, for instance, he looks a bit quirkier, Paul Moir, but he's got ability.
Maybe I'd say the three are Venice Beach, Capri, and Cliffs of Moher. Douglas MacArthur, yes, he did win, but I don't think he's as good as the others. But it's interesting that Aidan O'Brien has 7 in the race. John Gosden has 5. Simon Straw has 3. So 15 of the 20 were 3 trainers.
It's as bad as jump racing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how it's going to work tactically is going to be very interesting.
Well, without a standout from any of these camps, it's not as if the jockeys are going to be all playing cat and mouse to try and get a favourite beaten. They've got to ride their own races.
There's not a lot of value protection going on.
No,
because there's nothing there with significant value going into the race.
Chance is there for something to have a breakout performance, isn't it? Now, see, Capri and Douglas MacArthur have come through the sort of Ballysax, Derrinstown route we associated with Galileo himself, High Chaparral. Capri, there's been a lot of money for, apparently. He's shaped quite nicely in both his starts, hasn't he? Looks like he's going to take a step forward.
Well, I think they both have. I mean, over the winter, they were talking about Capri as one of the, their better Derby hopes. And, he hasn't run badly in either of those 2 starts this year. But I think, Douglas MacArthur's interesting for me because he was highly tried last year, and I think he disappointed on a couple of occasions. But he's taken a bit of a step forward this year, and it's as if he's got a bit more confidence. He's all sort of come to himself. And again, he's a great family. It's he's a brother to Was, and he's out of a half sister to New Approach. So he's going to stay, and there's Epsom history there.
It's so often the way, isn't it? The Balliol horses coming out of those trials that one of them will make a big step forward on the day. We've seen some big price kind of runners up and so on over the years, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see, particularly Capri doing that. Let's have a look at the Dubawi situation here. Dubawi, for a horse standing at that fee, needs to do something about his Derby record, which currently comprises 2 fifths, well-beaten fifths, Mick Darm and Red Galileo. And I know that's a bit random. He's also had a very impressive Coronation Cup winner, and Charlie, you bought an Oaks third, I think?
Lady of Dubai, yes. Yeah.
So, it's going to happen one day. Dubai Thunder is from a stout family and put up an extraordinary performance at Newbury. I don't know if you saw it.
I was there, yes. Obviously very, very soft ground, sort of almost sticky ground, and he just went through it very well, and he just kicked on and quickened away. And I think for him to sort of repeat that sort of performance, he's going to need similar ground, I think, on quicker ground at Epsom. And coming off a maiden win, it's a pretty hard task for him.
You were there. What's he like physically?
I did notice him. He's a very powerful, compact, strong horse. It doesn't actually look like a stayer to me. And but he certainly stayed that day, and in time, I'm sure he will be very useful.
It's a pretty appalling ask, isn't it? 10 minutes after your debut to run in a race like this. Do you think it's a bit of a high-risk strategy, or?
Well, Ulysses won the same race last year.
Yeah.
But he'd had a couple of runs, hadn't
Yes.
he? Yeah.
Yeah, he'd run in that maiden at Leicester behind Roger Charlton's horse.
He'd run it too as well, hadn't he?
Yeah.
Imperial Aviator, hadn't he?
Imperial
But
Aviator.
he had a grounding, as you say, Nancy, and you could even argue that he's probably come back. Well, the shapes as though he might come back a better horse this year, because it was a bit fitful after Epsom for him, wasn't it? It is. It's a chance worth taking, obviously, for them. Ben Battle also has been fast-tracked from an impressive maiden ring win. Ran very well at York, Nancy, and out of a very useful mare, obviously, in Narrain. What's your reading of Ben Battle?
He's done everything, he's been asked to do. He's as you say, he was second in the Dante off 2 runs, out of a very good mare. And Grand Am Bar was second in the Oak, so you'd think he should stay, but I don't know. It's asking a lot of both of them. And going back to Dubai Thunder, it's a family that appreciates sort of ease in the ground. He's a half brother to Farr and racing history, and they both did well with ease in the ground. And he just looked to me at Newbury. Yes, he was impressive, but he went through it a lot better than everything else.
It was one of those funny races, wasn't it? When there seemed to be a whole load of horses in contention. Suddenly there was a horse that had gone into an overdrive. Speaking of Ben Battle, we ought to give some attention to a horse beaten at Bath first time out, Charlie.
A handicap at Bath on Good Friday.
Who now is a Dante winner and is the absolute reverse of some of these sort of potential horses. He's got runs on the board. He's a scrapper. We know exactly what to expect from that stable. He's going to step up in trip. What's your take on Permian, Charlie?
I think he's a very good bet to be in the first 4, because he's hardy. He's very he's had plenty of racing. He knows what he's doing. He won't lack for fitness. He won't lack for know-how. He's been around the track once already. I'd say he's a very good bet to be definitely in the first 4.
Nancy, you wrote one of your lovely pieces about this colt's family. That there's lots of quality in the family. Is he going to benefit from the extra distance?
As Charlie said, he's a hardy, tough character. He runs like he will. It's Miesque's family. There's lots of miling talent in there, sort of King Mambo and Caracontian. But I think he'll stay. And even though he was bred by Darley, Cornwall still win because the associates own the dam. So, oops.
We've mentioned the 2 Dubai colts for Godolphin. Charlie, how on earth has Kojak ended up with a Derby horse?
Well, yes, I don't know. Do you? I have no idea. Out of a King Mambo mare too, so all the more surprising. He won well at Lingfield, but.
It's staying family though, further back. It is. Yes. Brian Peru.
Yeah.
Force family, but still.
But anyway, there it is. There was a Kodiak in there, and there's also a Camper Cliffs.
Well, indeed, yes. We were mentioning Nathaniel in our preview of the Oaks. He had the runner-up at Lingfield, ran a remarkable race. Glencadam Glory was completely out the back early and got involved late on. Do either of you like any of the Gosden mob to make a big step forward?
Apart from Cracksman.
Apart from Cracksman, yes, indeed.
Honestly, I don't really know. I Crowned Eagle, it's a big step up. Glencadam Glory is one of those horses who could finish 4th or 5th, as those sort of horses often do. the Khalidi, he obviously won. He won the Goodwood race.
He did it well there, didn't he?
Yeah, no, he did.
But he's a handy little horse. I can just see him going round Epsom. But yes, it's a step up, isn't it?
He's hardy as well.
Yeah.
He's had plenty of racing and he knows what he's doing. And then the other one...
The Southwell Maiden winner.
Yes, I don't quite get that myself, but anyway, well, no doubt there is a very good reason.
Well, I believe he worked well with Cracksman the other day, didn't he?
Well, he's always promised. He's always gone off short odds in his various maidens, but he's I don't know, he looked quite one-paced in a couple of them, and then...
Now, there's one other horse I'd like to ask you both about, who is working away at the back of my mind, plenty of room at the back of my mind, and that horse is Rekindling, who I think is going to flourish for the test. He beat Douglas MacArthur in good style in the Panny Sachs, and then it did look quite a deep Dante, didn't it? And he stayed on really nicely. Nancy, do you give him any hope?
Yeah, I do. I think he'll, as you say, he's doing all his best work at the end. He's already shown good form. He's bred to stay. He's a brother to Golden Sword, and
he was second in the Derby, wasn't he?
He's second in the Irish. He did run in the Derby, didn't he? He was see the stars here. With a good Kimani family further back. He's a family of Lady of Dubai, perhaps. I think. Ponji and the...
Yes, yeah. Ponji. Yes. Yes, it is. Yes.
Charlie, do you like Rekindling at all?
I do, actually. Yes, I do. And obviously he won a good trial, and he ran an okay race at York, and he's the sort of horse who might come on again.
Yeah, just looking at Golden Sword was close up fifth to See the Stars, and then finished second, Fame of Glory, the car. So yes, he's clearly going to enjoy the trip, I think. Right, cards on the table time. Nancy?
I am going to go with Rekindling. I think Rekindling.
And Charlie?
I will go for Whatever Ryan Moore rides.
Is that because you think? Is that because you think it'll be the best colt, or because he'll get the best ride?
A bit of both. No, seriously, I would say.
The tension is unbearable.
Yeah, well, I would have doubts maybe of him staying if there's any chink in his armour, being out of that fast mare. So I'd probably go for Venice Beach.
Venice Beach, yeah. I think very solid. Very solid, both those two.
Followed by Cracksman, Permian and Eminent.
All bases covered. Thank you both very much indeed.
Thanks for downloading the Racing Postcast. Listen online and on mobile.